Hey there. Once more without the...
This is the Northman, man. Be a wolf.
No, a fart. That was one of the best.
That's the lighthouse.
That was one of the best cinematic farts I've seen in a while. Maybe I do need to watch The Lighthouse. You didn't tell me there was farts in there. Hey there, boys and girls. Welcome to this week's episode of Howling Weekly. Nick and George here with the Viking.
The Northman.
I just want to... Oh, my gosh. Let's do that again. Yeah, beep, take two.
No, but it's funny because Robert Eggers, I saw an interview with him, and he was like, I do like the movie The Vikings. And I'm like...
Oh, gosh. Let's do one. From, you know what? I'm not even going to edit this to the front. I'm just going to do it live. You guys are listening live. Here we go. Hey there, boys and girls. Welcome to this week's episode of Howling Weekly. Nick and George here with, don't mess it up, the Northman.
Nailed it.
I had to slow down. In fact, I got that watch.
You got.
For those listening, I've been fixated on this watch from a company called Mr. Jones Watches, and now you're probably thinking of that one song in your head, Mr. Jones. They have a watch called like a Lazy Day, and it's just a guy in a pool, and I love it. And on the back, you get engraved, and Alex is like, "What do you want engraved?" And I want slow down.
Slow down. The watch is perfect visual for that.
Yeah. So so when I have it, I'll be able to get the movie titles right for these episodes. So I'm very excited.
This is going to be a spoiler review of the Northman. So if you haven't sat through the entire 3-hour journey of what is the runtime of this movie?
It's 2 hours and some change.
Okay.
And it's also a spoiler if you've seen Hamlet.
Yeah. I mean, they changed some things. I heard it described as Hamlet meets Conan the Barbarian, and then I heard a lot of people arguing that it's way more Conan the Barbarian and no Hamlet. But I'm going to argue a lot of the opposite here in a minute.
It's funny. I can see it, but I do think it leads more Hamlet. For it to be like Conan, I thought there was going to be like at least.
Yeah, what did you think coming in? Like when I told you the Conan Barbarian thing, and you ended up watching it.
You actually really, because I didn't know anything about it going into the movie other than the trailer that we had saw. Where it's like, I'll avenge you, father, mother, and he just keeps repeating it over.
He's doing the Indigo Montoya.
Yeah. So I didn't really know anything about it. I just knew it was Robert Eggers, who I really admire. Like I do think he's one of the best working right now.
Totally.
Yeah, I absolutely love The Witch. Haven't gotten all the way through The Lighthouse. I need to watch it in the right setting. Like I tried to watch it, with the lights on, at like 7 o'clock.
I don't know what the right setting for that movie is.
That's what you see, but you keep selling me on. You're selling it more.
The right setting for that might be upside down.
So when we got in the car, we actually saw it with our friend Haunting Season. I'm telling you, moviegoers.
That was so fun.
12:30. Showtimes.
Yep. With him.
Just like right in the beginning of the afternoon. Like you go in there at 12:30, you leave. It's 2:30, 3 o'clock. You have the rest of the day. I want to make that a habit. Like,
and you felt like you accomplished something. We went to a volcano. We kind of circled the earth.
Went everywhere. Dude, I actually came back from the Viking, cleaned the house with a Viking mentality, and it was spotless. But when you told me the Conan the Barbarian Hamlet thing, that got me really excited because one of the other movies I really love, or two other movies I love that's basically Hamlet, is one, The Lion King, but two, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Yes.
And I didn't know all this. Like I'm not claiming I knew it was Hamlet going in. Like you told me that, Alex, told me that the two people who love books informed me of this. And I do think adding any kind of Shakespeare is a winning recipe.
Well, sometimes it's secret Shakespeare and you don't know it, which is like what happened with Forbidden Planet. And when you find out later, you're like, wow.
Yeah, I think it is absolutely fascinating. And so being that I like all those movies and I love Forbidden Planet, and after hearing about it, I thought, why don't more movies do that? And then you said that, and I was like, oh, well, there it is. There's another movie. So I'm probably going to enjoy
Which,
this.
by the way, we saw on Shakespeare's birthday, ostensibly, if you believe Shakespeare exists. So that was amazing. It was amazing. It was an amazing experience. It was a great experience in the theater. Not that great a crowd, but it's 12:30.
Yeah, it was. I wasn't even going to get popcorn. Then Josh got it. I was like, or no. It was 12:30, and I was like, I wake up late. I just had coffee. I brushed my teeth. I didn't want to sit next to you guys, with stanky ass coffee breath. But then Josh was like, I'm gonna go get a drink, and I was like, I'll go get a drink. And then Josh was like, I'm gonna get popcorn. I'm gonna get popcorn.
Yeah. And I was looking at you guys decide, like, it made sense to even think about it. You're going into a movie where you're gonna watch people do the Lord of the Rings journey for 2.5 hours. You're gonna be starving.
Also,
you're gonna burn calories watching this movie.
It's also like really intense, and so being able to just like throw popcorn in my mouth during like this battle scenes it's really nice to have a little vice in there.
And it's an amazing cast. So I'm just gonna get the surprise out of it. I have a surprise for Nick, right? But the cast for this is ridiculous. Obviously, it's Alexandra Skarsgård, Nicole Kidman, which there's an amazing turn her character takes in this movie. Anya Taylor-Joy, Ethan Hawke was amazing. Bjork, William Dafoe. I mean,
Bjork was.
I'm telling you, if you put this group of people together in a room in Hollywood, you couldn't assemble another group somewhere else. I would want to be in Hollywood with this group of people that made this movie. So, and I can't say his name, but I think it's Claes Bang. Do you recognize that name?
No.
You don't. Okay, here comes a surprise. Everyone,
it's not the dad from The Witch, right?
No, it's not the dad. It's not the dad from The Witch,
aka the actual.
So it's the Ethan Hawke's brother, the true villain of the movie.
Yes, Uncle.
You didn't recognize him.
No,
because you've seen him before.
Okay. I'm excited because I don't know where this is. I do not know where this is going. It is truly a surprise. I feel like I've seen him.
Did he look familiar?
He it's weird. He did and he didn't at the same time.
Right.
Like I felt like I've never seen this guy, but I felt like I've always seen this guy.
Totally. Well, here's the thing. So he's really, really well known, but wouldn't be to us naturally, but in a lot of things. But
if you say Bridgerton,
no. So he's really good in this as a villain. Can you think of just an epic villain he might have played right underneath you?
I know it wasn't.
Go big. The biggest villain you can think of in all horror movies. Just go big.
All horror movies?
Yeah, all of them. Just name the biggest villain you can think of.
Freddy, Jason, Michael, Chucky,
Dracula. BBC's Dracula.
Shut up. No, that was him.
That was him, which explains why he is also phenomenal in this movie.
Dude is amazing. Yes. That is one of the best Draculas we've had since Gary Oldman's nutsack hair. Totally. Like, oh my god!
And also, you would think in the cast I had just said, like with him in there in that mix playing the villain. This is a perfectly cast film. It's insane.
Wow. I am shocked.
Right. So that's great.
He made Dracula like threatening and awesome.
Yes.
Like I want to be his friend, but you ain't sleeping over.
Yes, and also like truly superior. He played him Pennywise style, like alien. Yeah. Like he'd almost become so powerful that it was
I could rewatch.
He couldn't be bothered.
I could rewatch the BBC's Dracula. 100%. Honestly, man, that got me hyped. I didn't
Great
expect
show.
that. You're right. That was a great surprise.
All right. So let's talk about the Northman now.
All right. Alexander Skarsgård, like the main lead in this. He is so good.
By the way, he has literally the most hilarious IMDb picture of all time.
Oh, I think did we post this?
No, I haven't posted it yet, but it's if you haven't seen it, go look at it. It's hilarious.
I think I've seen it on Twitter or something like that.
He's got a dark comic side. I like it.
A lot of people want him to do more comedy because apparently when he does comedy, he's very, very funny.
Well, even in the marketing for this, he's just been like it's so hilarious. He's sitting here as the Anya Taylor-Joy, who I know basically from all horror work and Queen's Gambit, right? So like. She's vaguely sinister to me, right? But when she's sitting next to him, and in the interviews, she's always the sunny, positive one, and he's like the completely bleak other one. So there's this moment where they're interviewing her. She's like, "Yeah, I'm hoping for the best," and he's like, "And I'm a nihilist." And she's like elbowing him, like So yeah, I can see it.
But he is, and I really liked him in True Blood. I thought, which is funny because he played a Viking who got turned into a vampire, and his name is Eric Northman, which is just kind of, I'm not, everyone's making that observation, but it's just so weird.
It's a sign that the next thing you know, like Elon Musk will buy Twitter.
But this movie is it's not brutal throughout the whole thing. It's only really brutal in like the first act, like the first little bit. But when it is on off.
It's brutal in other places than that. Actually, our audience was most off put by the torturing Alexander Skarsgard's scene later
Yeah.
in the movie. But you're right. It's there's less action than you would think going into a movie like this, right? Like the first attack scene. Can we just talk about?
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
Like the 12 guys against the world way that this movie starts.
I've never felt so intimidated in a movie. So before this big attacking of a village scene, it's them just...
And the village, when he says village, this isn't Seven Samurai. It's a fort. You have to scale this. It looks like a wooden castle.
Yeah, the walls are 12 feet high.
Right.
It
looks like something in the Revenant like they would have built for sure.
It's gonna take some effort.
Totally.
But before that, it cuts to them like basically getting canoeing to the area. Yep. Right, and they're just killing everyone in their way. Like there's two guys on a boat, and then just arrows fly and hit them. And the gore, we'll get to the gore. This gore is pretty top notch, and the special effect. There's some VFX in here that are just—it's got the best of like both worlds. This fucking movie, man.
Completely.
But when they're like hyping themselves up the night before, and like they're like wearing all the wolf shit and screaming,
doing the berserker prep,
dude. It's the first time in a movie where I've sit there and I thought, oh shit. Like whatever's on the opposite side of these people are fucked.
Totally. And then you think that, and I think the movie's smart because it makes you think that, and then the attack begins and you realize, I mean, it's literally just like a football team worth of people trying to take down this fort, and it's gonna work because they're insane, and the you don't know how many trained fighters are back there, but it turns out there's not a lot.
It turns out it doesn't matter.
Turns out it doesn't.
They have their eyes set. The fight choreography in this movie, like I swear to God, like I want to have all these directors on the show and just talk to them because there's so much going on in the scene. Even the way it starts. So if you haven't seen it, they're basically they're wolves, like they're howling before this starts. So when they're invading it, they're wearing these wolf skin, you know, and it's the scene in the trailer where the guy throws a spear at him, they catch it, and he throws it right back at him. The little details that are going on in this fight scene, like when Alexander's climbing, and this isn't a little detail, but that spear comes down, and he's just kind of like, "What the fuck?" and dodges it, and then like continues to scale the wall, and all the stuff in the background. Like this scene is just so awesomely done. Like it truly felt like chaos.
Totally.
Like there's a lot of times when you watch an action scene and there's a lot of quick cuts, like Jason Bourne style or Marvel style where you know what's going on and it's kind of cool, but this actually put you in that Viking raid, and it felt awful.
It felt like that happened exactly like that somewhere, right? For sure. And it's crazy also that they what the movie is going to unfold, because it's going to keep talking about the threads of fate and like unspooling your fate and whatnot. And it's going to turn out that there's a lot of fatalism going on here, there's a lot of belief built into the people approaching the battle that it's already been pre-decided and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And when you think that way, you can do insane stuff because like there's literally a moment where Alexander Skarsgard's taunting a person torturing him like James Bond villain style, and he's taunting him and he's like, "Go ahead, pull your sword. Try to kill me. Your sword will break. I can't. It's not my time. You can't kill me right now, right?" So like that fate thing we're going to get used to later, but opening the movie with that, because it helps you get charge a fort with 10 times the people you have in it. Like if you believe that it's already been decided, right? So, but you don't know that when the movie starts.
No.
So it's the most shocking way to start the movie. It's so good.
Young Alexander Skarsgård with Ethan Hawke and the scenes with Willem Dafoe were great. Dude, I swear to God, man, they know how to shoot a movie. Like there are so many shots in the Northman where I was like, how do you shoot that? Like, how do you, like, when you have people on a set with a camera, like, how do you set it up to achieve, like, what I just saw? And the one I'm talking about is the scene is Ethan Hawke comes home, and everyone's like, oh, praise Odin, he made it back. And Alexander Skarsgård, what's his name? It sounds like...
I like your reenactment of it.
They're like, Odin! Odin, I'm home!
I don't know, he's the Northman. I remember Fjolnir, because he kept saying it.
It's when he comes home and they go to this weird dungeon and Ethan Hawke burps and the kid farts and they're taking some kind of psychedelic.
They are, but it's actually it's a peacetime version of the ritual we're going to see way later in the movie, where you're kind of designating an heir. He's Ethan Hawke's telling his son, like, you're my heir. You have to avenge me if I fall in battle. Like, all this stuff. It's the become a man ritual.
Gotcha.
Right, but it's done in a really screwed up way under a lot of psychedelics in a very trapped and closed place with farts and just guys. So like, it gets as primitive as you would expect.
So it's they're shooting it of them howling and being weird, and then it cuts to like an angle of them, like a bird's eye view.
Yeah.
But then the camera like pans to the kid's face, and it goes down. You see his feet, and then you see that, like, it's like Big Lebowski. Like, he's like looking down at themselves, but he's not looking down at themselves because whatever chicken, fish, bone broth, mushroom, weird thing Willem Dafoe called it, has them tripping absolute balls.
Totally.
The only other time I've ever felt a movie that had a psychedelic scene in it that made me feel like, whoa, like,
right.
Because I've never done a psychedelic.
Right.
Was Hagazusa.
No kidding. So
yeah.
Both horror movies.
Yeah. And that
I can see the scene being
shooting scenes like that and really accomplishing it as effortlessly as the Northman did.
Right, and in as little light.
Yes.
Like, he's sticking to that in a lot of this movie.
There's scenes that feel like are like legit lit by like 3 torches. Like when the king when Ethan Hawke comes home, there's like people sitting in like the darkness in like their little castle.
Right, like he totally makes this work in a way that like Godzilla did not. Like the Gareth Edwards, he did that, right?
The first one.
Yeah. It's just told dark all the way through. You can't see a damn scene. In this one, you'd think that would be happening in these scenes, but it's not. It's amazing. But this is his third bat at this. Like he's I saw someone with this hilarious tweet that was like, I wish I could credit, I can't remember his name, but it was something to the effect of, the Northman is a great capstone in the man, it smells funky in there trilogy. Right? Because these characters are not like taking a lot of baths.
No. After the raid, there's a part where they lock a bunch of people in a hut and then light it on fire.
Yeah.
And
hard turn, Nick.
It's a yeah. Well, yes. I'm just mimicking the
movie. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Buckle in, Buster.
That's fair.
And it's the scene where Alexander Skarsgård walks in, and you see Bjork, and Bjork's only in the movie for how long is that scene? 4 minutes.
Yeah,
it's not long at all.
Nope.
But she is fantastic.
I'm not convinced she's not elsewhere in that movie, because I got a chill when she was there, and I kept getting chills later, and I'm like, God damn it, Bjork's probably behind a tree.
Yeah, so her whole shtick in the movie is she's a witch who's telling Hamlet
sure
what's about to go down.
Hamlet Conan, which you can't combine, because that's like Hamden or
I tried to do it, and I can't give myself an aneurysm.
Hamlet's fine.
You know what? I need to slow down.
Plot watch. Hamlet's fine.
Her performance was really everything. I mean, it was unsettling, and I couldn't take my eyes off it. She just oozed this like creepiness about her, and I know in real life she's got this really kind of like eccentric, like weird kind of personality, and it just
I saw her in concert, believe it or not.
Did you really? How was
and
it?
The guy who wrote this movie, because
what?
he was in the Sugar Cubes. I mean, I'm presuming he was there at the time.
No way.
Yeah. They were amazing. They've always been amazing.
But her like personality. Mm-hmm. When you imagine her as like this creepy witch, you're kind of like, okay, I can maybe see it. But she just brought like a 10 out of 10 performance for that.
For when she was on. But I don't think he would accept anything less, and I think they wouldn't give anything less. You could tell it's like a team, right?
Yeah.
They're rooting for this movie, like you wwere saying before we started recording. It's non-IP movies like this need to succeed, to have more movies like this. The people who are doing it are given 150% the whole way through. So yeah, she's amazing.
So
Everyone's amazing.
As the resident Shakespeare expert.
Oh God,
what did you think of her?
Well, it's not so much that. Let's look at it like this, okay. Right? So the thing is, you would think in a movie where there's the Hamlet story, and which is basically a revenge story, where Hamlet delays way too long getting the revenge he should just take right away, but he takes him the whole play to do it. He ultimately does it. Sort of. So the revenge, which is basically what they did here, a la Lion King, And the Conan part, which is all the action, because no one thinks of Hamlet, the play, as an action play. He's like a thinker, a talker. Right. That probably no one anymore in the world thinks of any Shakespeare as action, but it is. Like there's a third of it is sheer action. But regardless, the thing that's happening here is this. I don't know if I think the movie knows it's doing it, but it's actually truer to a very interesting dark side of Hamlet that not a lot of people have ever given faith to. And I think in a weird way, this movie might be better adaptation of Hamlet than a lot of Hamlet plays that I've seen, just on its own terms, even though it's not trying to do that. It's way more on the action side and way less on the talking side. I mean, Alexander Skarsgard's not given the Gettysburg Address at any point in this movie. Like, he's just like, I'll avenge you, Dad. I'll free you, Mom. I'll save you. Like, it's, he's not a lot, there's a lot of grunting. So Hamlet is Shakespeare's longest play with a lot of talking. So how is this grunting movie doing a good job with Hamlet? Well, the way it's doing it is Hamlet is, first of all, he's Shakespeare's darkest, deadliest character, right? Mm-hmm. There's a guy that I read a great thing about Hamlet who was like, you don't want Hamlet to go over for a dinner party because you all end up dead. Hamlet knows dies. He called Hamlet mad, bad, and dangerous to know. Right?
That's cool.
Right. So the thing about Hamlet is he's cursed. So you just don't want to be around this guy. Everyone's going to end up dead. And it's the darkest ending in all of Shakespeare. And this is a guy who wrote a play about someone who had all their limbs torn off and replaced by tree sticks. And they tried to make him walk around, and wrote another play about a guy who got his eyes torn out and he was blind, and they started making fun of him and making him think he was jumping off a ledge, but they just had him on like a milk crate. Right? And Hamlet is darker than that stuff, right? So this movie caught something that the other plays don't. For example, Hamlet is undefeated in sword fighting in literature, which you can't say about like a lot of people, right? Like even Thor's lost a hammer fight or something at some point, right? But Hamlet is literally undefeated, and still, I think, undefeated in this movie. So that's part that they're getting it. But the main part that they're getting right is that Hamlet delays way too long in the play. He finds out his father's been assassinated. He finds out his uncle has moved in, married his mom. All of it's offensive. He's made a pledge to do something about it. He knows in Act 1 of the play that all of this has happened. And he doesn't manage to kill Claudius until the end of Act 5 of the play. So there's a lot of time in between. Why didn't he just walk in and kill him with a sword? Matter of fact, there's a moment in the Northman when Alexander Skarsgard sees them coming, and he's trying to pull the sword, but it won't come out because it doesn't. In the daylight, you can't. It's the night
the sun
sword.
Just started to crack. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Right. So why the delay? And the idea is in Hamlet, and I think in this movie now, is that your life is most important part of your life is the part of your life you spend on the mission you're on. And the mission that he was on, he was living his life seeking the revenge. He wasn't going to meet a slave who he was going to fall in love with the way he was going to live his life, just staying at home and doing like whatever.
Right.
The life that he actually was meant to live, he spent the whole movie trying to seek revenge so he could start his life. The movie was his life. He just didn't know it. And he did all the things he was supposed to do in his life. And the same thing is in Hamlet. When Hamlet at the end of the play, they're like, what was it all about? He's like, the rest is silence. Right. It was about doing it. Right. He's like, I can't tell you what it's about because it was about what was happening to me. And now I'm not talking anymore. So now I can't tell you what it's about from here, but it was about what just happened. Right. The play and the movie are doing the same thing. And a lot of Hamlet plays with a lot less action and farting and flaming swords have not got Hamlet as right as this movie did, which I find amazing. Right? Does that make sense?
No, I think that's... See, when we were starting the show and you were asking me what I thought of the Conan and Hamlet comparisons, I was like, the trailer could have just been you saying, Hey, George Healy, here representing the Northman. It's Hamlet and Conan the Barbarian, and like they could have saved so much marketing, and because that sold.
Well, Hamlet might not sell as many people as you think it does, but I'm glad it sold you.
I think it would. People, it's all name recognition nowadays.
There is high name recognition. Actually, Ethan Hawke played a very, very good Hamlet in a modernized film he did of Hamlet.
Really?
Yeah, he's really good. He said it at the Denmark Corporation. So he said it like Succession style. It's filmed like Succession.
Wow.
But with the Hamlet storyline. So right? It's really...
See, you can just take... That's what I'm saying. Just,
it's really... So these people knew what they were doing. So I think that's excellent. Right? And I found... Like, I'm making it sound more boring than it was, because even though that was in there, every like 7 minutes, some completely batshit insane thing would happen, which only Robert Eggers could do. And a lot of times it was being hallucinated or dreamt about.
That's where I wanted to go next.
And usually that's aggravating. And I just have to gold medal this movie for doing that right, because usually that is so bad. They did it in The Green Knight, and I hated it.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? How do you do it right?
We all, in fact, that's what Josh said when we were messaging each other, trying to decide when we were going to see the movie. He was like, I hope this is what I wanted The Green Knight to be. And I kind of felt the same way. Like, I didn't know. I just gave up all hope for anything Green Knight related. I was like, oh, you burnt my ass. I'm over you.
Right.
But after he said it, I was like, you know what? I kind of share that sentiment. And it was. And one of the things I liked about it was how they absolutely nailed this concept. I don't even know what you call this. It's like a fake out.
Yeah. Well, it's like what Rob Zombie did in Halloween 2, which makes me crazy.
Yes.
The hospital scene is the best scene in the movie, and it doesn't happen.
I think the reason I enjoyed it more is because since we started Hollow Weekly, you've gotten me more into David Lynch, and I used to be in the mindset of when something happens in a film, I kind of want answers. That's probably why I really liked I fell for the Cloverfield marketing back in the day. It's like I wanted answers. I want to know, what does this monster look like? I want to know now. But after over there on the shelf, we have David Lynch's meditation book, Catching the Big Fish.
Yep.
And you've really helped me explore like his art. And the thing I like about David Lynch's art is that there are no answers for it, but you get to come up with your own, and it's totally valid.
Totally.
And that gave me like this like freeing, endless
That's cool.
thing about it, which made me really like Twin Peaks and a lot of stuff. And what Robert Eggers did in the movie was, the things that you think may not be happening could absolutely happen in this world.
Right.
But they also absolutely could not happen in this world.
Right.
But he sets up enough of both of those to where you can, I'm kind of sure what I think really did happen, but I can't prove it.
Right. And you think you know what didn't happen. Like the clash with the corpse king.
Yeah, that's the first example. Like, do I think that corpse came to life and fought him?
Right.
Which was a great scene. That scene had one of my favorite shots when he's told he needs to. He goes to another guy who tells him, is that guy technically a witch himself? Like, would he be a witch in the Shakespeare?
Yeah.
He's
for
foretelling
sure.
what he needs to do. I wasn't
in
sure.
Shakespeare would have been one of the witches.
I wasn't sure, but I figured that's sort of what that guy is filling in.
Yep.
He tells him he has to go get a sword that he has to use to kill his uncle. When he goes down there, there's this huge giant corpse. Like it's an actual giant. Like, it's 8 feet tall.
Yep.
Like, you could tell this thing was like,
it's
a monster.
Intimidating. Yep.
And he goes to grab it, and it comes alive, and they have this sword fight. And my favorite shot was he unsheathes the sword, which can only happen at night, and it's this sword made, blah blah blah. Look, just think of an awesome sword from Lord of the Rings that can't break. It's your standard bolt action fantasy.
Stormbringer from Elric. The people read that one though.
And I said, like I've ever read it, but like that sword, I think that's the name of like.
When you see the picture of it, it looks just like the movie.
I feel like that there's a sword in every there's probably in Elden Ring. There's probably a sword that I've used.
Stormbringer for sure.
So the big corpse swings it. His sword at Alexander Skarsgård that he just grabbed off the ground, and the sword chips in half. And for like a half beat, he just kind of looks at the sword, and it's just like, it's kind of funny, but it's also like kind of like, oh shit, because we know this Viking knows how to fight. He's never lost a fight.
Nope.
He's never lost a sword fight, like you said.
That's
but
right.
when his sword breaks, he's kind of like, I've never seen that before. Oh fuck!
Right.
But So then he slays it, right?
Yep.
But then the camera pans over to where the corpse was, and it's still in the chair, and he's standing there. So you're asking yourself, did that fight really happen? I think probably not.
Probably not.
But there's other stuff in the movie where I think it probably did happen.
But so here's the thing I think is happening here. I think the difference is there's absolutely no explanation in like Halloween 2.
Yeah.
But there's absolutely an explanation in the Northman. It's just the movie respected your intelligence enough not to spell it out. So the explanation is there's actually a really, really great book called Blitzed, which is the effect of drugs on the Third Reich, and how the book's contention is a lot of the insanity was like whatever was being fueled in part by like whatever. So people, when they derange themselves, if they're doing psychedelic drugs, trying to become wolves, going 72 hours with no sleep into battles, walking barefoot into malaria-filled mud puddles and all the things they're doing, right? They're gonna start to experience these effects that make them feel like it's part of the price they're paying for the journey they're on, right?
Yeah.
You'd be hallucinating too if you walked through a desert for 30 days and somehow survived with like a couple of thimbles of water, or what your brain would be shriveled to a raisin. You'd be like seeing 18 Earths when you came out of the right. So like that's part of it, but the movie showed you that, right? The movie it just didn't like point to it and label it into like whatever, but you could tell that it was part of like, we didn't show you that it took him 27 days to walk to this point, but in his mind he was like, man, that felt like I just battled the biggest giant. So we showed you that because it's what it felt like to him, instead of showing you the 27 days of walking, right? Because a lot of it is it's a representation of what they were actually going through, and that happens a lot. Like The Sopranos was really good at having Tony Soprano have a really weird, surreal dream sequence, and then he would figure out, oh my God, I'm being betrayed by this character. And he was putting the clues together subconsciously, but he was figuring out in a dream. And the character who was betraying would like do sus things in the dream, and then he would be like, oh my God, this guy's betraying me, and which is like unconscious problem solving. Kyle MacLachlan will love this. And David, because they both believe in this, like totally, right? So that's what was happening, if that makes sense.
That's interesting. The psychedelic aspect of the Norseman, I really dug, because I read an article about like Vikings going like berserker mode and like how that happened, like, and a lot of the times it was like psychedelics. And there's one kind of shroom. I could be wrong on this because this was a little while back, but I think it kind of looked like the Super Mario. Oh, that actually makes sense. It looks like the Super Mario mushroom.
Totally.
And they would take it and it would give them. They would hallucinate that their enemies were like way smaller than what they were in real life.
Right.
So to them, they're just like, oh, well, this guy's tiny.
Well, you just have insane confidence. And sometimes that works, right?
Yeah.
You haven't seen Tombstone, but anyone who's seen Tombstone, there's this amazing moment where they're losing a gunfight across a river, and there's very few of the good guys left, and they're all about to die. And Kurt Russell just stands up and wades into the river, and they're all looking at him like he's nuts because they can just shoot him. This is far from you and me, and he's like, no, and he just starts shooting them all, and they start shooting him, but they're missing because this guy's just walking straight towards him. It's the last thing you'd expect.
Right. One
guy walking at 15 guys. You know what I mean? Like that's basically their battle strategy is that.
But the psychedelic scenes, I just thought were awesome. The Valkyrie.
Totally.
Shots.
Like well, the Valkyrie, I just want to say one thing about the Valkyrie in a second, but I want to ask you because it was not just the one thing I feel like we have to not leave untouched is the sport, the game.
Oh my God.
Right? Because
there's an
insane game buried in this movie that I became obsessed with watching the movie. I was like, what's happening here? Why is this a metaphor for the whole movie in like a tiny
Does it have a name?
Yeah, it definitely has a name, but no, I'm not going to say it.
All right, I didn't know if it
No, it's based on a real thing, and it's apparently just like lethal stick
lacrosse.
ball,
Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like imagine football lacrosse with sticks, and the goal is to maybe score, but also annihilate your enemy. like
with no rules.
With no rules. I don't know what it is.
You just kill each other.
That scene.
They were dragging people off like gladiator style.
And smacking them in the heads with these huge wooden planks. That scene actually made like my jaw tense. Like I do not like that at all.
That was really rough.
There was one thing that in the movie that they kept doing to just show like how in tune Skarsgard was, but anytime a projectile flew at him, he would do like that kind of like Michael Keaton like Batman twist. Like hey, what'd you say?
He was so good at that.
Yeah, because he dodged a spear and a couple arrows, and then in the game the guy like picks up his ball, and imagine just like being like 3 feet in front of your friend, and you have a baseball and a baseball bat, and you just try to like hit your friend with the ball as hard as possible. Like that's what happens, but he's not that. He's that dude, so he dodges it obviously.
And the shot is awesome when he dodges it.
It felt
like the camera like follows the ball right past his face.
Yeah, it felt like some Matrix shit. Like it was really well done. I don't understand the sport, but I never want to play it or see it again. Like it hurt.
I just wonder how many times Robert Eggers gamed that sport out, like made people play it so that he could get off.
Do you think when he was directing it, he was like, man, he was like, okay, so we got this guy here. You're gonna run down there, go to the end zone.
I mean, you have to, right? Like,
then the kid's gonna get tackled by a 8'4" giant. Almost died.
Now what? He's about to score. So what do I do? Break his leg.
Break his spirit.
Tear his soul out of his body.
No, that did lead. That did lead to the coolest headbutting scene. Headbutting death.
Yeah,
that's probably why my head hurt during that scene. So they're playing in front of the uncle and his mom. They take over the thing, and for some reason I don't know why the kid decided he needed to get in on the game. But he picks up the ball and tries to score, and then this giant basically kills the kid, but almost like 99%. And then Alexander Skarsgard, beats the shit out of him by just headbutts,
repeated angry headbutts.
Let me ask you: is there any other scene in a movie that's giving you a headache? But like not because it's bad. Like there's plenty of movies that suck. I gotta hurt.
It was funny because as it kept going on, and it was like the 16th consecutive headbutt or whatever, the people behind me were like, oh.
Yeah, like the
sounds are getting louder behind me.
The sound started to get wet. It felt like,
it was bad.
Like the dude's head was in the mud. It was blood.
And why would you not, like, you got fists? Like, you might want to take a break.
Look, use your knuckles, man. Like,
he was proving a point.
No need to lose taste over this guy.
He was proving.
The sport was pretty.
He was proving a point. There's an amazing detail in this movie that I loved, and I'm excited to rewatch it again. I told you a little bit about it. It's just the directionality of how the characters are moving and how you're showing how they're moving. There's so many scenes where you're seeing Alexander Skarsgård be like, well, the fates decree that I head to the volcano land or whatever. Yeah. And you see him traveling and he's just going left across the screen. And then later they're like, well, the fates decree now that you have to go, find where the Lord of the Dead's sword is. And you just see him traveling the opposite way across the screen. Like people are just going back and forth aimlessly. No one ever really getting to a goal, which is how this world feels. But like a lot of how our world feels, right? So I was watching a lot of that happen, and I started to make a bet with myself. I don't know if I told you this during the movie, but I remember thinking to myself, all right, well, he's showing us that these guys believe that they just got to go wherever the fates tell them to go, and they're not noticing that they keep backtracking on themselves and getting fucking nowhere at all. Right? So then right around the end of the movie, they go to the volcano, and he's on his final mission, and I'm sure this is the moment where Alexander Skarsgård, where the Northman beats BBC's Dracula. So let's do this. So they shot, the whole camera swivels, and I look up, and Alexander Skarsgård's staring right at me and heading straight towards me, and the landscape's behind him, and it was the first shot I remember in the movie shot in that direction, like heading towards me, right? So he's walking towards me and the camera's panning to the volcano. I'm like, oh my God, this is it. This is when the movie's going to say he cut the thread of fate like he said he was going to do. And he broke the left-right treadmill he was on, and he headed, off into the sunset, and he's going to break it. Right. Then he gets fatally wounded. I'm like, well, that's the end of my theory. Right. Because going left and right got him nowhere, and going straight at the audience, it got him to the end, and I guess off his treadmill. But what a depressing way to go out. And then I watch his body fall, and the camera just swivels up, and I go, this motherfucker is gonna go up down.
Yeah.
The last shot of this movie is gonna be up down.
Yeah.
He did left right, and then at the end he's like, I'm coming straight at you, and then left up down was the only thing he had left to go. And I was like, I made a bet with myself like 5 minutes before we got to the scene. I'm like, there's no directions left. What's he gonna do? And then I just see the Valkyrie horse soar into the sky, and I was like, I've never bet the end shot to myself before, or at least the direction of it, or whatever. And they were teasing the Valkyrie, whatever, but I wasn't thinking that way. I was just the direction of the way people were moving in this movie is really fascinating. They're like mice in mazes, but the mazes don't have walls. They just have like water and ice and fucking other people who hate you.
Now that I think about it, a lot of the shots, there's just someone with a bucket walking in the background. there's a lot of buckets in this movie.
Well,
logs.
There are a lot of it's for
pelts.
it's to clean off all the blood they're about to shit. So anyway, there's amazing like stuff that happens in the film, but it's also a legit action film where it's an action film, right? And there were great fights. There were great betrayal and plot twists.
That volcano scene, it is basically a silhouetted sword fight. Because they just try to make the lighting look as natural as possible. Totally. It wasn't fancy.
It was a little Kill Bill, the end of Kill Bill 1. In the snow, just abstract shapes fighting each other.
Yeah, and what was cool is it's literally just like the low tint of like lava with these silhouettes fighting, and at times you have to kind of figure out you forget okay, where's Hamlet at, where's Dracula,
right
who's fighting. But it's such a cool ballsy thing that you don't see anymore.
Totally.
That I don't know, I just really appreciate the hell out of it. I would be so upset if this movie quote bombing did anything to deter this man's career. That fight alone was
would be criminal.
The other gory stuff that happens within the fight scenes, like the guy who gets his nose slashed, who he runs into again, and it's him because his nose is missing. That effect looked really good.
And the way he kills him.
Oh my god, the way he just slowly plunges that knife in. That got our audience too. That was a slow knife in your mouth or to your snout.
Yep, that was. And he didn't pull it back. You experienced that whole.
No, but what's funny is when I think of the action scenes, I immediately think of the first attack, the end fight scene. But that damn sports ball, whatever that game was, that's
right.
That's not a light scene.
No,
it's weird to go back to this scene, but that is, I consider that an action scene without a doubt.
And that's the thing is that there were sneaky ways to get action in or drama in or move the exposition forward, which I appreciate how smooth it was, because it was entertaining while it was happening, especially with the cast that this guy has. We didn't even talk about. So Anya Taylor-Joy is the most impressive thing to me in the whole movie. Not in terms of just everyone's giving great performance or whatever. I mean the character and what the movie was doing with it, because she probably has the most powerful power, right?
If it exists, and that goes back to that. That goes back to that thing. Does that power exist? And that's why this movie is great. But
if it exists, she probably has the most powerful power. But her decisiveness about I'm just getting out of here.
Mm-hmm.
The only way out of it's the only winning move is not to play, as the movie War Games would say, right? So she jets out of there, but the visual that he gives her on the way out, because everyone else dies ugly, even the good people. I mean, think of how Ethan Hawke died. Yeah. Not that he's a good person, but just the
he was lit up with 10 arrows. And 7 pounds chopped off the top.
Terrifying, right? So people are dying ugly, and not only does she not die, but her exit off the screen is the most visually. She just commands the wind.
It was some Moana shit. It was great.
Goes, right? So that's an indication that she's the most effective character. She's the one who, makes the healthiest choice of all the characters, right?
And
so
even
that was great.
Even their like little correspondence. So like they're both there to like serve the king that they've been enslaved by, and so when they talk, like they have to like sneak off to the side and like kind of make it quick. And I don't know. I kind of like the trying to just get this message out real quick before these guards yell at us.
Yep.
Like those little scenes right there were just so well done.
Yeah, not only were they well done, but I'm glad you said that because it was really cool that you were watching two people who kept their cards close to their vest, who obviously had secrets they didn't want to reveal, who were good at saying little and not telling people key details that might, they have to learn to trust each other really fast, learn to become allies, and then get a whole plan built, just like prison style, with like a couple of drop notes and a couple, like whatever, all while being the kind of people who they're sort of flirting with each other and developing this relationship. And it's all in just like little moments and little plans and like whatever. It's very little language they're getting across to each other, but you feel like you're watching a relationship grow. It's not that's got to be hard to do as an actor and a director.
And a writer. I think that's not easy to do. If everyone could do it, they'd all have their own little Northman, but they can't seem to do it.
What is wrong with this movie before we go? Just because this is a big,
I like that, but one more actor I want to
Yes,
get to.
Yeah. The guy? The dad?
No,
who else?
You teased it in earlier. What'd you think of Nicole Kidman's ending to this? Because that's different. That's the last. We're gonna little Shakespeare here.
Yes, a little. Well, I mean, the difference here, it might not be a difference is the problem with this one.
Okay.
Because you can, like you were saying about David Lynch saying anything is valid, you can read Hamlet any way you want. So you could read it exactly the way this movie does. You can believe that Gertrude in the play is exactly like this, but it's not the consensus view of Hamlet.
Right.
This movie is villainizing that character a lot more, right? So I thought it gave Nicole Kidman a much better lane to be in, to be in this kind of movie, because she could do like real like Hamlet, but it would have been so out of place here,
right?
The only thing that was crazy to me was it was the one place that I got confused, a little disappointed. Either I didn't understand it or the movie was just like didn't bother with it. I couldn't tell what was happening. But
this perfectly ties into what's wrong with
exactly because in the play and a lot of other versions of Hamlet and just this revenge story, the Lion King, for God's sakes, right? They have to solve a problem here, or one of these problems, which is the uncle, Dracula, and Nicole Kidman are very smart. They're very manipulative. They run that little shepherd kingdom, with an iron fist. People try to like rebel or whatever, and they get shut down. They figure it out, right? They're whatever their company grift is, whatever this little island kingdom they have going, right? They're the lords and kings of it because they're the best manipulators, right? But they make the most basic manipulator 101 mistake at the end where Nicole Kidman's like, I'll protect my family from Alexander Skarsgard, this trained warrior that can take down forts with his bare hands. She's like, I'll just hide in a closet with a sword. I'll have the drop on him. What could go wrong? I'll have ample time to stab him once. Surely that'll be enough and it's just such a pitiful attempt to protect her family and for a character that had to be so smart to get to the point they were at, to watch them go out on such a dumb note to me was.
I have a really shitty argument, or no, not argument, but
sure, bring it. I need one.
This is and I'm not even sold on this myself, so I'm not.
Let's workshop it.
I'm not. Yeah, let's workshop it. I remember one time my grandma came over and she was talking to my dad, and she was like, he's always a kid to me. Do you think at some level, because the last time she saw him, he was like, what was he, 12 or something like that?
Yeah, she did have a superiority thing. I could see that.
That's my only thing.
The
she
thing
still
is,
saw him as a child.
But
she saw him beat the shit out of that guy at the game.
The thing is, if he had just landed 2 days ago, most dangerous game style, sure. But he lived there for 12 years. by the time this moment in the game. And part of being on top, being in charge, is being super observant and like reading the room, reading the island in this case. I'm not buying it. And then I literally, my brain even went to the fact that because I heard her say at some point, thank you to him, that she was trying to die. Like it was death by cop, that that her plan was so dumb on purpose because she wanted to be let out of this, treadmill of pain or whatever. But I don't think that's right. I think I missed something that someone said. I think she was trying to protect. I think if she had it to do again, she would kill him. I don't think she failed on purpose.
It's funny. That's one of the things that's not a psychedelic thing. Wondering if it's real or not. That's just a straight up human moment where we're like, huh? they got us guessing if this metaphysical shit's happening and just the plain ass life shit's happening. Like this movie's got questions. Good questions.
That's what I'm saying.
What do I think is wrong with it? Dude, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not just like, I don't want to just like come out like fanboy in the movie. Like
the musical numbers, you enjoyed all those?
I didn't mind them. I mean, dude, we were in Iceland in like 800. Like
totally authentic.
I don't really have any problems with the movie. There was really nothing that like stood out to me. I mean, maybe I wish there was more Willem Dafoe, but we did just get like Willem Dafoe's skull for like a whole scene,
which was an incredible scene.
Yeah, and I mean, just unsettling because there's so many. By the time you get to that scene, there's so many weird psychedelic things happening that you're just waiting for his skull to start talking, but then they don't.
Nope.
So like that choice to just because if I was making the movie, of course I'm having a decor, it'd
be Ghost Rider all over the place.
I'm doing it. But they were like, no, this is a. They keep calling it an art house movie, but it's $90 million. It's not an art house. I don't agree with that. Art house is made for like a stick of gum. Like that's not $90 million. To go film this in Ireland.
No, he built an entirely new Iceland just for
no, I'm not buying that. But to be honest, there's just nothing that really stood out to me that took me out of the movie at any real point. Like I really, really think this is a pretty damn good movie.
No, I think this is a fantastic movie. One of my favorite movie experiences.
If I had to, like, your ending thing of why she killed him would probably be the first avenue I go to find something I didn't like.
Yeah, and Haunting Season had said, that they made a really pitiful attempt to hide the sword, which was true. He kicked like a little dirt over it, and it was like, but it feels really nitpicky in such a big epic movie. Not his point, but just like I don't think there's many flaws in this movie. Is the thing?
Did he actually hide? It looked like he tried to hide the sword, but I could have sworn when he walked past the guards, he had it in his hand still. Like,
no, he hid it. There were other times he was hiding it and unhiding.
Again, they went for natural lighting. It was hard to see this. That's why I'm asking. I'm not asking because I wasn't looking.
It didn't make a lot. It didn't make a lot of sense what was happening, but it was fine. The movie did an amazing job of like showing you little details in the backgrounds, like Michael Myers style, but not like overly pointing to it. So you caught what you caught. You didn't get which catch we didn't get, which makes second and third viewings a blast. Right?
Yeah, I definitely can see myself like rewatching this, and now I got to rewatch BBC's Dracula too. Now because of this movie. This movie's just bringing a lot of great
and this is going to be one of those movies like Robert Altman's The Player, and if you don't know who's in that, go look that up. Like where they're going to look back 20 years from now and look at this cast and be like, wait, what?
Yeah,
who got this group of people?
If you're listening to this review and you have not seen it, like, do movies a favor.
Well, that's possible if you're like us. It's possible not though. This movie, the reviews seem pretty positive
on both sides. It's more so than The Witch. Like
because this guy makes me nervous because I fought for The Witch so hard for so long that I'm gun shy.
The Witch ended. I remember the ladies in front of me went like, well, that sucked. Like, what the hell was that?
Yep.
No one actually said anything at the end of the which is better than it sucked. So that's, it's the little, the quote Exorcist 3, it's the little things.
Well, I think it's fantastic. I think it will get better over time as time goes.
I agree with that.
And I think we had a really interesting discussion about how there's an in-between track there's this weird track of Green Knight, The Revenant, and this, where I was trying to place like, which was the most art housey kind of with those problems and flaws or whatever.
Right.
And I expected when I walked out, it would have been Green Knight, this, and Revenant as the most grounded. But I think this is the most grounded movie.
Oh, absolutely.
By a good distance. I don't think Tom Hardy could survive half the injuries he sustained in The Revenant, let alone what was going on with Leo.
or he could. I don't think he could survive with Skarsgard.
Right.
He's a bigger problem.
Exactly.
He's a bigger problem.
Who, by the way, that the few scenes where he had to be full on fright mode warrior style, I wasn't sure he'd be able to pull off. It looked great in the trailer, but it's still, there's a lot of ridiculous roaring and howling, and you look kind of cartoony. So when it gets to the violent part, you're still sort of laughing. So I expect it to be, but it gets real dark when they fight. So this, it's an incredibly balanced movie.
Gosh, I just don't really have much to.
Yeah, no, we're gonna go see it. Let us know what you think of it.
Unless the listeners want me to just keep talking about the cool Bjork witch scene for another hour now. I could really do it.
Unless we can start foretelling the actual future, because
I can actually foretell the future right now.
I can foretell there's no Northman too.
Oh no! I got a better future for you.
What was that?
Hold on. Let me. Hold on. I'm channeling it.
All right.
Oh, that's weird. The listeners are going to leave us 100 new reviews. Wow. That's crazy.
That's incredible.
Wow.
Why did that skull just roll out from under your chair?
That's great. That's crazy. Oh my goodness. How are the listeners the main character? You better fulfill your destiny and go to iTunes, search Hollow Weekly, hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review.
Much appreciated. Don't fall in a volcano on the way there.
You know what? It's funny you mentioned that, George. I actually was going to tell you that's what you were going to say. You were going to talk about the volcano, and that's what I want the listeners to comment. So if you haven't given us a review, go to iTunes or Spotify, but you can't leave a review on Spotify, but we'll take it.
Yes.
Go to iTunes, 5-star review,
yes.
And I want you to give us a review of what you think it feels like to fall in a volcano. Just 1 or 2 sentences. It doesn't have to be, it's not an essay. Don't put more than 30 seconds worth of your time into it.
I wonder what it does feel like.
Well, I did see a TikTok of someone talking about what it would feel like to die if you went into a wood chipper.
Oh God!
And dude, that's
I don't know which thank you. I was just picturing Arnold going at the end of T2 into the molten.
No, she starts talking about like how the nerves feel, and I got queasy. I was like, I couldn't do it. So I foresee me stop talking about this, so I don't pass out on the show. So leave your reviews. Let us know if you see The Watchmen or what it feels like to fall in the volcano. Unless you've fallen into a volcano, RIP. And until next time, stay scary. Watch a bunch of horror movies. Go support this movie. It's totally worth it. Talk to you later. Bye.